and good evening. You're watching ET Now. I'm Ruchi Bhati. You can start flying once again. The government has in fact put out standard operating procedure through which airlines can once again start resuming their work. Joining us now on ET Now is a very special guest, the Aviation Secretary, Mr. Pradeep Kharola. Sir, appreciate you taking your time out and speaking to us at ET Now. Let me first begin by asking you on the resumption of flights. You, in fact, spoke to us yesterday as well. You had a critical meeting with all the airlines as well over the last 2 days. Help us understand, up until now, some of the state governments were not okay with the resumption of flights. What changed in the last 2 days? What were the kind of conversations that the government, the central government had with the state governments?
Well, basically, we have been talking to all the important stakeholders of the aviation sector. That is, the airports have been discussed, and the airlines also. We have had very elaborate discussions, and in discussions with the airports and the airlines, and also inputs from various different parts of the country and the different stakeholders, the government decided that yes, the domestic aviation can start operating from 25th of May. And this decision was taken, and right now we are in the stage of preparatory stage for launching of flights from 25th.
So you're saying that a lot of work has been done. Help us understand, a lot of people who are waiting to go back to their homes or meet their loved ones are facing a lot of trouble. And of course, for everybody who's watching this broadcast, how will things really work? For example, in Delhi, if Delhi, Noida private vehicles are not allowed, how are you expecting the people to travel? And will there be any sort of an exemption that will be given? For example, even in Mumbai for that matter, there is heavy impounding of personal vehicles that is happening. So will you ask the state governments now to put traveling to airports as well under some special category or as a part of essential movement?
But as you must be observing that the restrictions in the lockdown are being lifted gradually, and movement of taxis and movement of cars have been allowed in most part of the country. So with the opening of civil aviation, which is likely to happen from Monday, we are quite confident that our traveling passengers will not be facing any difficulty in reaching the airport or from the airport to the destinations.
Right. So since you're opening all routes and initially there were concerns coming in that what happens now to the passengers who are coming in from containment areas or the red zones. I do understand that now Arogya Setu app will be important for everybody who's traveling. Having said that, the concern is coming in on what happens now to the passages, the washrooms, the check-in areas. How touch or handling at every port is going to be very different.
Well, I think the answer to that question is that we have laid a very detailed standard operating procedure. Now, there are standard operating procedures for the passengers, for the airports and the airlines, and detailed protocols have been laid as to how sanitization has to be done at the airport, how sanitization has to be done inside the aircraft, and also we have said that even passengers before traveling, apart from in case they have Arogya Setu, that's the best part of it. In case they are somehow not able to join Arogya Setu, even for them we have made arrangements wherein it has been stated that airlines should ensure that a passenger before getting a boarding pass should give a very clear-cut declaration that he is not coming from a containment zone, or he's not coming from a red spot, or he's not one of the persons who has been infected by, or none of his family members have been infected. So all these declarations are being taken electronically by the airlines, and only when all these things are established would the boarding pass get generated. So a lot of automatic measures have been put in place to ensure that the passengers, the risk of the passengers traveling the aircraft is minimized.
But sir, even though there's going to be a self-declaration, one can never be 100% sure that whatever is being declared is 100% right. Having said that, how will you ensure that those checks and balances are also maintained? Like, for example, in Delhi, the Nizamuddin area, a couple of days back was a containment area. Things are much better now. So will a passenger from this area be allowed to board a flight or not?
Well, see, the declaration, there are several layers of checks we have created. The declaration is only one part of it. Apart from that, when the passenger comes to the airport, there is a thermal screening done for the passenger, and secondly, then the passenger is supposed to wear a protective mask. And before he boards the aircraft, the airlines are supplying a protection kit to him. And in this kit, we are providing another face mask, and we are also providing a face shield, which is another layer of protection. And inside the aircraft also, a detailed set of guidelines have been laid, which enumerate what all actions have to be taken so as to minimize the risk. So there are layers and layers have been created to ensure that the risk of any kind of transmission is minimized.
So can one safely say that flying now will be 100% safe with all the SOPs that now have been put in place by the government? And since the conversation that you had with the airlines over the last 2 days, where do they really stand in terms of the new protocols that have been put in place?
Well, the airline industry have a very important role to play in ensuring that all the passengers are moving very safely. Now, the role of the airlines is to first of all ensure that there shall be 100% web check-in. So we will not have check-in counters. So that really eliminates a touch point. After having done that, we are saying that even the baggage tag, the airline should devise systems that the baggage tag gets printed at one's own place. And if someone does not have a printer also, a simple mechanism has been put in place wherein the passenger just writes his name and PNR number and sticks a small piece of paper or puts a tag on the bag. And with this, when he comes to the airport, at the check-in counter, there are glass shields being provided so that there is no face-to-face contact between the staff and the passenger. And at the baggage drop area, the passenger just leaves the baggage and walks off. Even the receipt, the baggage deposit receipt also will not be in the form of a paper. It will be in the form of a SMS or a WhatsApp message. And then once he comes to the aircraft, we have said that there shall be no food to be served inside the aircraft, and then all people should be wearing protective masks, and the crew will be in total full body protective masks. So all these all detailed guidelines and measures we have taken will ensure that the air travel would be as safe as ever.
So contactless check-ins, apart from that, there will be no meals that will be served for you on the plane. Is that what is going to be the future of flying? We were talking about providing all the comforts at one point of time, and suddenly things have changed so much. So will these guidelines stay in place till the time a vaccine is found?
Well, see, this is a transition phase. We have just opened up, and there is nothing static guidelines. All guidelines are dynamic. As situation evolves, the guideline also would evolve, and we'll have to change the guidelines along with the emerging situation. So we are keeping a very close watch. And as was just mentioned, that we are opening the airlines in a very calibrated manner. So on day one, it is only 1/3 of the aircraft which would fly. We keep a close watch. We look at the demand. We look at reaction from passengers. We take their feedback, and then go in for the expansion of the service.
Sir, I'm sure demand is not going to be a concern because of the conversation that we've had with various airlines. They have indicated that there's a lot of pent-up demand and there are a lot of inquiries coming in. Having said that, right now we're talking about 1/3. How soon can the government look at least reviewing the current 1/3 capacity norm and perhaps look at in increasing the capacity in a significant way?
Well, it's very difficult to give in terms of number of days as to when we will review. What I just mentioned was the situation as it evolves will be continuously monitored, and we'll be awaiting a lot of feedback from the passengers and from other stakeholders. And based on the inputs, the review would be taken, and it's going to be a continuous process. And we are hopeful that in a calibrated manner we will be able to mount more flights.
So we keep talking to a lot of people, and this is an important clarification that they are also seeking, that for passengers who were coming from abroad, there was a 14-day quarantine facility as well. What is the status as far as domestic passengers go, and why has the government not put in place, or has the government thought of putting in place any kind of a quarantine facility for domestic passengers too?
Well, first of all, the two journeys are not the same. They are not comparables. If someone is traveling from the US, first of all, he or she is traveling from a foreign country, and we are not very much aware of the systems and the procedures in those countries. It's a very long distance travel. Maybe it's 14 hours of travel and all. As compared to this, in domestic aviation, we are moving from a known place to a known place. We know our systems very well, and we are confident that our systems are working very well. And secondly, these are all short haul travels, 1.5 hours and 2 hours. So the situation is totally different. So under such circumstances, what our guidelines have stipulated is that all passengers will have to just abide by what the destination state's health protocols are.
Right. Having said that, sir, the airlines are not very happy with the fare cap, the cap on the fares that has been put. Airline sector was once a sunrise sector. Now we've seen in the last couple of years, 2 airlines have shut operations. After that, coronavirus hit them as well. Airlines across the board, if you see globally as well, have gone bankrupt. Very little support came in for the aviation sector in the economic package. Yet the government is going back on its stated, policy of unregulating fares. Why did the government decide to do that?
Well, it's if I can say, it has been a very tightrope walk for the government. Now, it's true that under normal circumstances, it's an open market and there are no fare regulations. And you had just mentioned that initially when the supply is very less, when we are operating with only 1/3 the capacity, you just mentioned there is a huge amount of pent-up demand. Now, in such a situation, if the entire fare is just left to the demand and supply forces, we may find airlines charging exorbitant fares, and this has been experienced in the past. So a decision was taken. Now, it's basically a balancing act between the interest of the airlines and the interest of the passengers. So we have taken this decision that the interest of the airlines has been protected by saying that we should have some sort of a low fare, but at the same time the interest of the passengers have been protected by saying that the airlines shall not charge more than a particularly a specified amount. So it is the outcome of this balancing which has been carried out that we have been able to recommence the operations. And as I just stated, that the situation is quite dynamic and we'll be reviewing the situation constantly.
Allow me to come in on that. You are saying that you have kept the interest of both the aviation players as well as the passengers in focus. But having said that, one cannot ignore the fact that airlines are really cash strapped right now. Then why not allow them to go ahead and decide the fares based on the demand? Because that has always been the larger principle through which things are usually guided.
Well, as I said that the movements of people from one part of the country to another just cannot be guided by totally commercial interest. So there has to be a reconciliation between two conflicting demands, and we kept the interest of the passengers also in mind, that for last several days they have not been able to move, and this pent-up demand should not be exploited by any mode of transport to charge exorbitant fares and they thereby compromise the interest of the passengers. So with keeping all these things in mind, a balanced approach has been taken, that a fare band has been fixed. It's not merely the upper fare or the lower fare. A fare band has been fixed, and within the fare band the airlines can work with the market forces.
Caps that have been put in place are very complicated. I do understand that the fare caps will be based on the flight timings. The fear is that for a lot of these popular routes, for example, a Delhi-Bombay route, a Vistara, SpiceJet, Indigo will all have different flight timings. So how is the government going to regulate the flight timings too?
Oh, well, this is a normal thing which is done. This is something called allotment of slots at the airports. And this exercise is right now going on. All the airlines are sitting with the DGCA and they are giving their flight plans, and the DGCA is sitting with the airlines advising them to distribute the flights all over the day so that a passenger gets an option to fly at any point of the day. So this exercise is going on, and the DGCA and the airport operators are quite used to handling the situation. They have done this in the past, and now with only 1/3 the capacity, it's not such a big challenge.
So there is a concern coming in that given the fact that how the current situation is panning out in the aviation sector, it is going to be quite difficult for the government to push the Udan scheme as well in a big way. The airlines are already cash strapped. There is a fare cap as well that has been put in place. Does it mean that the government's own Udan scheme now takes a back seat?
Not at all. I think the Udan also, just as we are opening the commercial flights, the Udan flights are also about to be opened, and these will be opened in a day or two. For them also the guidelines are being worked. And let's not forget that, yes, if the biggest advantage today is that the crude price have really fallen down. ATF today is available maybe at just about at 1/4 the price it was available about 3 months back. So there have been certain positive things also, and I'm very sure that the type of domestic demand we have, the entire Udan scheme is funded by domestic aviation, and we have a very robust domestic demand, and this robust demand is which funds the Udan scheme. And with the dropping crude price and the rising domestic demand, I'm very sure that there is going to be absolutely no difficulty in running the Udan scheme.
Mr. Kharola, allow me to come in on that because you're already talking to various airlines and figuring out how the flight plan is going to be. Will you also encourage various airlines to go ahead and adopt a code sharing pact as well, so that in the initial stages things are quite smooth?
Well, code sharing is a practice that is domestic code sharing in which government does not intervene. It's a commercial arrangement between the airlines, and normally whenever two airlines come together and perceive code sharing to be a win-win situation, they enter into an agreement called an inter-airline agreement, and code sharing is a common practice. And I'm sure that our airlines also would realize the importance of code sharing and having such interline agreements between themselves. And they would definitely be, if they find that the terms and conditions between the two partners are attractive to each other, they will go in for code sharing.
So this is going to be my last question for you before I let you go. We were hoping to be lucky the second time around for Air India's disinvestment. Looks like it has heard, it is seeing a hurdle in terms of coronavirus. What happens now to the Air India's disinvestment plan, and is the government also open to tweaking the regulations a bit a little later when things kind of return back to normalcy to make Air India a little more attractive for a potential buyer?
In my view, I think the disinvestment of Air India, the process is on, and we are waiting for filing of the expression of interest, and for which the deadline is end of June. Let's see if we really analyze the aviation scenario today. Air India would emerge as a much better value than it had earlier. The reason being that only those countries which have huge domestic demand will find themselves in a very comfortable position in the future. And India is one such country where there is a robust domestic demand, and Air India has a good share of that domestic demand. So the future of Air India is going to be very good. Secondly, and more importantly, the crude prices have been falling down, and this makes the carriers more viable. The carriers which can survive become even more viable. And the third is the international travel is never going to be the same again. Now, we had a big challenge that the travel was going through various hubs and all. Now people would start preferring direct travel, and that was the strength of Air India, that direct flights from India to Europe, direct flights from India to US, and that's where the real value for Air India would come in the future. So in my view, Air India would emerge as a much better value now, maybe after 3-4 months when the operations stabilize.
All right, on that note, sir, appreciate you taking your time out and speaking to us at ET Now. That was the Civil Aviation Secretary, Mr. Pradeep Kharola, in conversation with ET Now. With that, it's a wrap. Many thanks for watching.